Welcome to the Life After Sugar podcast, the podcast that's not just about sugar, but about your relationship with it and also with food and especially with yourself. So if you want to discover your life after sugar and hear inspiring stories from all kinds of people who also cut out sugar in their way, at their pace, for their own reasons, this is the podcast for you. Because when you take away the sugar, you can finally discover the real sweetness in your life. I'm your host, Netta Gorman. And did you know that sugar not only affects your body, your blood sugar levels, and inflammation, but that sugar also affects your brain? I'll be talking to Daneen West, who is a brain health expert, in just a minute. But before we have our little chat, I'd like to invite you over to my website, aftersugarclub.com, to go check out all the resources there about what to eat and also about gut health, which is very much connected to your brain health. And sugar is one of the worst things for your gut health. And you can also check out the Life After Sugar program by clicking the big green button, Join the Program. You can also come on over to my Facebook page, Life After Sugar, where I do daily lives about all kinds of subjects connected to sugar. And come say hi on my Instagram account at My Life After Sugar. That's where I post pictures of what I eat, what I do, how I live my life after sugar. All right, let's get going with this week's episode about sugar and brain health. So today I'm talking with Daneen West, who is a brain health coach. Great to meet you, Daneen.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And so can you tell us a little bit about how you first got into the area of brain health and its connection with sugar?
Yeah, absolutely. It started about 6 years ago. I had just had my third child, and my oldest was in preschool, so young, right? Before elementary school. And the preschool's teachers, there were two of them, and they said, "We've been holding off. We did not want to tell you this while you were pregnant, but now that you've had your child," right? Like you brace yourself. Well, there's something off with your son, right? He's not jiving with all the other classmates. He's not sitting in the circle. He's having trouble on the playground. He's constantly flipping the rug and touching things. You need to get him evaluated. And I was a little bit surprised. And I thought, well, yeah, he's high energy, but I thought all boys kind of bounce off the wall. Yeah, I just I was like, okay, well, I went and I pursued it, and I went and saw a professional, but I had my doubts.
And what kind of professional did you go see?
Oh, we went and saw the couple, and that was what set me on the journey, because the pediatrician that we've always saw never had any red flags, right? That's who all, the baby doctor, it was speaking and eating and all the check marks you do at all those little baby checks, that baby well check they call them. There was never any red flags, but I did go, and I went to like a family services type organization, therapists, those that look at ADD, that look at ADHD, autism. And what was interesting is the first doctor that I saw, would look at his behavior. We filled out surveys, and they came back and said it's sensory processing disorder. And I had heard about it a little bit, kids that were bothered by tags and materials on their clothing. But I was pretty surprised because the doctors couldn't tell me why, like what creates it, because I'm thinking if I know where it's coming from, I can help solve it. and they didn't know. They didn't know that, but they recommended therapy, occupational therapy. Occupational therapy for a kid is play. Get in a big gym and play. But I was a little frustrated not knowing root cause and that they kind of brushed that off. So I went and got a second opinion. And we went through the same process of looking at his behavior, filling out the forms, and they came back saying it was ADD and ADHD, attention deficit. And that surprised me, thinking this is the same child, but different doctors are seeing different things. So that got me really curious. So I went for a third opinion, and this time through the government, right, through the local school system, because he was going to be a rising kindergartner. So you started being eligible more for the academic, kind of view to it. And, they have services, and they said after looking, it was autism, Asperger's specifically, which really surprised me, because there was doctors prior within that year of going to get different opinions that said, no, this is definitely not autism. Like they were set, and they specifically said that to me. So I was really taken back. And I remember walking out of the building. It was down this white hall with my son holding my hand. And we had just been told Asperger's. And I remember him looking up at me with just fear and just scared and just the tears. And I remember feeling like, oh, I am going to do anything in my power to figure this out.
And the three different sort of versions of what was going on that you'd had with the three different opinions, did any of those three talk about or look at what was the root cause of them? No.
And and so my mind went wild, like, oh, maybe genetics, DNA, is it on my side? Is it on my husband's side? Is it TV? Is it sugar? I absolutely was looking at food.
Did you ask them, the experts?
Yeah, they said no. They said it's mysterious. You don't know, they never said the brain. And that's what was interesting of what I've learned was when you target and develop the brain and do what's good for the brain, which includes low inflammation, right? No sugar, right? That's the first thing that needs to go out of the diet is inflammatory foods. Then you start healing, and you don't see the symptoms. You don't see the symptoms of ADD, symptoms of sensory processing, ADHD, right? These are all symptoms. These are just the tip of the iceberg. But when you get to root cause, and I learned through a lot of trial and error, we did go down, had the different therapies, never went the medicine, never put them on medication, never went that route, although it was recommended, because I felt like, well, if you can't tell me root cause, then this sounds like a Band-Aid. The sound doesn't sound like, this is going to get to the heart of it. And that's what set me down the path. And I learned through a ton of research, a ton of money, a ton of different therapy, just figuring out that it's the organ of the brain, right? It's the control center of us all, that when it's not working properly, you see symptoms of anxiety, you see symptoms of depression, hyperactivity, ADD, all the labels us humans made for these labels.
So this was your third child?
Yes.
And what about the other two? Did they have any of those kind of symptoms?
Let me take that back. My third child was just born, and this was my first child.
Oh, gotcha.
So he was 4 at the time. So I had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn. Whoa. And so I had my hands full, right? A lot going on. So you give the nursery school teachers credit, they didn't want to add any stress.
That's understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're really experienced. They had 20 plus years of experience. So when they shared that with me about the observations, of his behavior, I did take it serious. And what I found with my other children is opportunities to fully develop and strengthen their brains as well.
So you were able to sort of be more preventative with the other two than with the first one. And he was only 4, your oldest.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing that happened is once I realized that when you take care of the brain, everything else kind of falls into place. It has that ripple effect for the whole family. And
was it not at all genetic?
It doesn't have to be, right? What the saying is that it loads the gun, but it doesn't pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's the environment that pulls the trigger, right? And often, the genetics, the DNA, it's cultural, it's how your eating habits are your parents' eating habits, right? Your customs, your traditions, the birthday cake, right? The sugar.
Yeah.
It's part of our culture, right? Our lack of exercise, or having a very active family, right? All of these things contribute to brain health. Now, and for sure there is a hereditary component, but it's more heavy on the environmental, on your symptoms.
Okay. And so what they said that your oldest child may have ADD or ADHD or Asperger's, and did he have any of those?
Well, he had the symptoms. He did. Absolutely. So when they scored him, when they went through the observations, when they spoke to his teachers, absolutely. In that first year in primary school and elementary school, he was in special ed. He was in a self-contained classroom. And he was there, but within the first, about 6 months in, you could tell how much growth and how much development his brain had gone through, based on an achievement center we had him in, a brain targeted achievement center that showed us how to properly, serve meals with less sugar, less artificial colors, less preservatives, right? Really whole foods, and just have a real holistic approach to activity and lifestyle changes that supported his brain. We've had a lot of catching up to do, but he did have tremendous growth. He's no longer in special ed. He then went into what we call an IEP, individualized education program. So that is not in a self-contained classroom, but you have a legal document at school to say you need these, the support, right? Maybe you get pulled out for a class or two, or you get extra time on the test. And so he did have that for a couple of years. And then he graduated from that as well. And I remember sitting down with the teachers, the special ed teachers, the principal, and they were flabbergasted, like, Mom, whatever you're doing, keep doing this. Like, we have so many children starting IEPs, but rarely. And they looked around like, has anyone ever graduated out of an IEP? They're like, no, we don't know of anyone that's in this situation. We went the other route, the other way. So it's a journey, it's a continuous journey, right? With gut health, with activity, with the right habit. But it was all about really targeting the brain and decreasing that inflammation.
Amazing. And how old is he now?
11.
Wow. So he's almost in high school.
Well, he's in 5th.
Okay.
Going into 6th.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Almost middle school here in the States.
So, okay, yes, we don't quite call it the same things in England and in Canada and the States. Whereabouts in the States are you?
I'm in the East Coast, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was he, or were you as a family eating a lot of sugar and colorings and preservatives when he first got these diagnoses, in the plural?
I didn't think we were. I thought we were eating relatively well, But now looking back, it was a big difference of where we've come from. I would go to the specialty type grocery stores, and I would go to, the more healthy places to food shop. And you look at the labels, right? You look, anything in a box, anything in a bag, as long as it had some good marketing, it was like maybe sugar-free or less calories or non-GMO. You're like, oh, you feel good about it. But there's so much more to it, right? What is there? 56 different ways sugar shows up on a label. It doesn't have to say cane sugar or high fructose sugar. There's 56. So you got to become either a food detective or just, really go with the whole foods. If that food existed 200 years ago, you're probably in good shape, right? That's the food you go with.
Absolutely.
The perimeter, right, of the food store. And you shop there. What has to be refrigerated?
Yeah, and
preserved.
It doesn't have to be a specialized food store.
No,
in my little town, we don't have a specialized food store. It's just a regular grocery store. Go around the perimeter.
Right. Because if it has to be refrigerated, it doesn't have the extra junk that you can't pronounce, the labels, the words.
Right. So did you start changing your diet, his diet, your family's diet when he was 4 years old?
Yes. And not overnight. Although I've made that mistake of going gung-ho. And then often there's like a whiplash, like a breaking rubber band effect. It's been over time, and making sure that, initially you can take all the sugar out, you can read the labels, and then replacing it is really important, right? But the taste buds, they remember the original taste. So like going from, this food to this replacement food that's maybe been manufactured, like gluten-free is an example, right? You're going from bread to gluten-free bread. You gotta wait a couple of months so those taste buds readjust, because going from one to the other, it's a very different taste, right? But yeah, I was just having this conversation with my husband recently at how far we've come, right? The choices we make just instinctively now around food has been habitual. Now it's part of our lifestyle, it's part of a habit, versus what we used to do, right? With just reading and believing the labels and thinking we knew, what was the right choice.
Well, it's a process, isn't it? I often compare it to learning a language, because I'm a language teacher, where you don't suddenly become bilingual. It's a process, and a relatively slow one at that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's as sugar's in so many foods. It's in foods that are not even sweet. You're surprised in some of the foods, the sauces, the condiments.
Yes.
Everything.
Sugar and starches, and I sort of say they're not even in foods, they're in food products.
Right. True.
And so when did you decide to get into brain health and become a coach in that?
Well, I saw how transformative it was for my son in going from 4 labels, special ed, to now mainstream, doing well. He's doing well academically, socially, and that was not always the case. There was a lot of anxiety when he was younger. I remember him melting down and crying because he didn't want to transition. That was tough, transitioning to just get into the car to go to the playground. You would think a child would want to go to the play, just losing it, right? So when you're able to see that transformation for yourself, you want to help others. That's, I'm a provider, I'm a pioneer. And I thought, wow, the brain being the center of it all, this is the key. This unlocks all of our best. And it's not only, our children, but it's for us adults, right? We're not stuck with the brain we have. I was taught early on that your brain stops growing when you become a teenager. And that's not true. There's more that we've learned about the brain over the last 10, 15 years than ever in history. And one of the big discoveries is neuroplasticity, right? And BDNF, really being able to grow your brain. And that's, throughout adulthood. So it's needs to be out there, right? I'm an advocate for brain health. I'm an advocate for a brain healthy lifestyle, because knowing our brain is how we think, how we feel, how we act, right? That's our life. That's our success or failure, our happiness, our sadness.
Absolutely. And what did you say? BDNF? What is that?
BDNF, brain derived neurotrophic factor.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's like that fuel that just like helps your brain grow. And it's through exercise. And that is, 21 minutes of exercise. You get that BDNF. We all, as humans, we produce it, but as we age, it declines in our body's ability to produce it. So that's why it's more and more important to get exercise, get that aerobic activity, go out walking as we age.
Cool. And nourishing the brain, I imagine, is key as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a energy hog. Right? The brain takes up more energy than anything else. And you need to provide it good nutrition, good fat, avocado, olive oil, nuts as an example, like really good fat. And knowing it's, how we think, it's how we behave, sugar is not its friend. That's not the food that the brain works on, because, and we've all felt it, right? Eating sugar, you get that instant feel good effect from the blood sugar spike, and that triggers serotonin. That makes you temporarily feel happy, less anxious. So all, again, is your brain feeling this way, right? Helping you feel this way. So what happens is then it doesn't last long, that serotonin spike. Blood sugar crashes, say an hour later, and then you're craving the sugar again, right? There's that loss of control. You get moody, you're more impulsive. The feelings, the behaviors, these are all sourced from the brain. And when sugar, the blood flow to the brain is low, that's when the blood sugar levels are low, you just make bad decisions. So, it's amazing, when you think about the sugar, the impact of sugar in our food to the brain, it puts you on a roller coaster of spikes and lows. And it's the same area, sugar and cocaine, drugs, addictions. It lights up the same area of the brain, the addiction center.
Amazing.
It gives you that immediate spike, and then it triggers cravings. Same as alcohol, tobacco, drugs. It's quite alarming.
It is. And, we all eat sugar, I would imagine, way more often than we would ever consume drugs or alcohol or any of those substances. Mm-hmm. So we're more exposed to those highs and lows.
Absolutely. Yes, it's because it's part of our culture. It's okay. Yeah. Right. It's celebrated.
Yeah.
But it's the exact same area of the brain as addiction, any addiction. It reacts the same.
So when you learned about this in your training and about how important the brain is, we know the brain is important, but not quite why or how, then what was the next step for you in your life and also in your professional life, but also as a mother?
I went and pursued certifications, one through Amen Clinics, Dr. Daniel Amen. He's the pioneer in brain SPECT imaging, and being able to look at a brain scan and see, depending on blood flow, what's overactive or underactive. And you can look at it and see, okay, yep, this is an introvert and he holds grudges and he has anxiety and he's angry, right? That is, you can look at brain SPECT images and you can get very close to who that person is.
Whoa.
And it's, I went down that route. I learned a lot about brain health, what hurts the brain and a brain healthy lifestyle. And I also went down the path of the brain at work, productivity, peak performance. And that's through the Neuro Leadership Institute. I have a result-based coaching certification. It's a framework of ensuring that as people set their goals and they work towards them, that they're in a state, a forward state, the best optimal state to achieve those goals. A state of being able to have new insights emerge, their best thinking, right? Nobody likes to be told what to do, but our ideas motivate us, right? If it comes from our brain, and they're all there. And that's the premise of good coaching, is to facilitate your best thinking, right? To help facilitate that. So I have both the professional, more career peak performance aspect, and then the health performance. So now I work one-on-one. I work with individuals to really support them in their brain health, peak performance, wherever they want to bring it. But it comes down often to the brain in helping them.
And all that knowledge now that you have about the brain, did that help you to reassess your nutrition as a family?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it goes hand in hand. It's foundational. What you feed your brain is everything, in addition to sleep and good hydration and exercise. What you feed it, or really what you don't feed it, is like the make it or break it. When it comes to brain healthy, you want good fats, you want vegetables, you want whole foods, you want protein, and you want to decrease inflammation. Number one on the list with inflammation is sugar, right? And that when it comes to sugar, it really damages your body, right? So when I think about sugar, when I think about like simple carbohydrate type diets, right? So the bread, the pasta, the rice, potatoes, the fruit juice, those types of sugar, it damages not only your physical body, which some people think of, oh, it's my weight gain, my obesity, but it's sleep, right? And you need sleep for your brain every night to clean itself. It's the only way that the neurotoxins that built up all day long get cleaned, is through sleep. And also through that, if you have that poor diet that's real sugar laden, you have a 400% increased risk of getting Alzheimer's disease.
Because they call it type 3 diabetes now, right?
They do.
Huh.
Yeah. Insulin resistant type 3 diabetes. And it's the facts, they're so sad and they're so scary around it. Every 4 seconds, someone's diagnosed. And you think about Alzheimer's, this is the loss of memory, not knowing who you are, not knowing who your family is, your spouse, your kids, not being able to care for yourself, right? You see memory centers pop up, right? You see more and more of this out here, because 1 in 3 seniors die of Alzheimer's today. Kills more than breast cancer, kills more than prostate cancer combined.
Amazing. It's crazy. And are they saying that it's preventable?
There's no drug. There's been over 220 drugs that got declined. There's no drug. And there's more and more. It's not only sugar, right? It's high inflammation for, a wide array, of sources. Sugar is a big part of it, but there's no cure. There's no drug. There's no cure today. And the numbers are projected to increase. It's like a tsunami coming at us. It'll have major implications to our healthcare systems, our government, our society. It's pretty scary.
They used to say similar things about diabetes, type 2 diabetes, that it was inevitable and it's degenerative and there's nothing to be done and meds are the only way. And now they're reversing diabetes with low carb diets. So is it possible that that's the case for Alzheimer's as well?
Yes, absolutely. A brain healthy lifestyle definitely supports either delaying it or avoiding it altogether. There is a lot of different factors, and it's suggested to really start looking at a cognitive evaluation in your mid 40s. And what's interesting is it's in the brain a lot longer than before symptoms show up. So symptoms maybe are in your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, but it shows up in that brain scan I talked about earlier, up to 30 years before you start feeling symptoms of Alzheimer's or dementia, the brain degenerating diseases. So it's in there, which, it's growing, it's building, and it's because of lifestyle, right? The reason it has gotten so prevalent, and 100 years ago, this was not something we talked about, is because of our diet, because of our lifestyle, right? Because of some of the ways we're living our lives.
Yeah,
Sugar being a
what we're
major
eating.
part of it.
Right.
Yeah, the way we're eating, right?
Yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
so tell me how sleep is connected to sugar and the brain.
Yeah, sleep is so critical, right? So not everyone knows this. It's amazing. So many people think sleep is lazy or sleep is non-productive, but it's one of the most productive, protective, healthy things you can do for your body. All day long, your brain is working hard, and it creates neuro trash, you can say. And it's all this this debris. And the only way for it to clean out the garbage every day, and it needs to get a cleaning every day, is through sleep. And it's the lymphatic system. There's fluid that washes over the brain. Only again can be done while you're asleep to wash it all off. It's like, you think about the trash, right? Rubbish, and the trash cans maybe in your kitchen, right? It fills up. And if it's not taken out, right? If the garbage truck doesn't come, if it's not taken out to the dumpster, it overflows. And that's how we feel if we didn't get enough sleep, right? Like if you think about only getting 5 hours of sleep, and say only getting 5 hours of sleep for 2-3 days in a row. Oh, you just can't think. You got brain fog, right? That's the trash, neuro trash in your mind. So you have to get it cleaned out. It's really important. And if consistently doesn't get cleaned out, say with insomnia or sleep apnea, that's where it's the foundation of disease, right? It doesn't allow you to heal. It doesn't allow your body to rejuvenate. So there's a huge connection. It's really important. And everyone needs at least 7 hours per night.
And I found when I stopped eating sugar and flour and all those starchy processed foods, that my sleep got better almost immediately. And it was restorative sleep. It wasn't just the number of hours, it was the quality of sleep.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's good. Yeah, the studies do show that. They absolutely do.
So how come reducing sugar, how can that improve the quality of your sleep?
Well, I think of it, often I get this question around alcohol, right? When someone drinks alcohol, there's sugars, right? And it works in the same way. So the serotonin, right, that helps calm and relax the prefrontal cortex part of your brain. And that's what you would get from those simple carbs, from the sugars. And what happens is that's a vice, right? Let's grab the sugar, let's grab the alcohol to calm, right? To calm the nerves. It's been a long day, long work week. And what happens is it does just that. But then 4 or so hours later, 5 hours later, there's a rebound. And it energizes the brain when it wears off. And guess what happens? When your brain gets energized, it wakes up and it disturbs your sleep. So if you're having nightcaps, if you're drinking or you're grabbing that sugar, you're having that, in the evenings, there's that rebound in the middle of the night. And then often what happens is it's hard to get back to sleep. And the brain's revving, right? There might be a lot of thinking, a lot of, oh, what's my to-do list? Oh, let me, solving problem mode. And then the brain gets very active, and it's very hard to get that 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep. So a lot of times it's wanting to calm, right? Wanting to help with the struggles that someone might have. And women are particularly vulnerable to this because women have less serotonin. They produce 52% less serotonin than men. And when their serotonin levels are low, they struggle with anxiety, more depression, right? Trouble sleeping. It's very common for women to have disrupted sleep, obsessive worrying, carbohydrate cravings, like that sweet tooth, right? Those are very common in women. And it's very much correlated to serotonin being low, right? They're reaching for the sugary snack. They're reaching for the sugary drink. A lot of sugar maybe in the coffee at 3 p.m. to get that second wind of energy. And what's interesting is some experts will point to women's low serotonin levels. The reason they're grabbing the sugar is a possible contributor to why 2/3 of Alzheimer's in America is females. More females are coming, are dying.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. So we know the brain is like the main organ that is in charge of everything else. There's also the brain gut connection with your gut health now that's being studied a lot more.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that it was so important, so central to how you function emotionally as much as physically.
It's always been mysterious, right? And there's, over the last, decade, the research and the ability to really understand and unlock the secrets of the brain has started really hitting the press. And the research is out there, but it's still just the beginning. There's so much we still don't know about the brain. But I will say, when you're in medical school a decade ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you have not learned about root cause. You have not learned a lot about what you speak about, what I talk about, what I teach, what I coach around. This is recent discoveries, recent research, and it takes 20 plus years for the research to hit the day-to-day conversations that happen at the doctor's offices. 20 years.
Wow. Yes. Yeah. It's crazy because we count on the doctors to know it all biologically, and yet sometimes we have to be our own advocates to educate ourselves as patients.
Yes, absolutely. And there's a ton of information out there now, which is great too, right? Yes. So, sometimes a little bit too much, a little overwhelmed. So you need a path, you need a coach, you need someone to guide you. But it's incredible. It's incredible. What we believe is often based in information that may have been manufactured, marketed, like sugar being for energy. So many individuals think that, and that can go back to a cereal commercial in the 50s. And there was a commercial, I think it was Sugar Snaps. And there was a boy that was being chased by pirates, and he paddled up to get the girl, but the paddling, he was super strong because he had his Sugar Snaps, his breakfast cereal, right? Yeah. And he got the girl, and he was a big hero. And it's this black and white commercial. You can find it out on YouTube. And it's said to be like the first sugar cereal advertisement that, was out on the airwaves. It was, all these mothers at home, they're watching this like, oh, I got to give my children sugar before school so they can do their best. But it's the exact opposite effect.
You gotta love marketing.
The roller coaster, right? They have seen comparisons of children that don't have the sugar and don't have the exercise before school. Their academic performance is a lot lower than those that don't. Like sending your children to school with a heavy sugar breakfast is setting them up for failure. And the school lunches, at least here in the US, the lunches are full of sugar. So my kids, they go to a public elementary school. My youngest really wanted to get the school lunch this past week. And we always make the lunch, nice, healthy lunch. But she was really like, oh, Mom, I want to get it. I'm like, you know what? Yes, you can get the lunch. So of course she gets it. All three of them are excited. They're getting the school lunch. They come home and they tell me all about it. My daughter, she says, Mom, the chocolate milk had 18 grams of sugar. And she brought home the carton to show me.
Oh.
She brought it home. And it had 18. So she's 9. She's reading labels, which is great. You got to teach them.
Yeah.
And then my son says, yes, Mom, I didn't drink the chocolate milk, but I gave it to my friend and it was his third chocolate milk. Oh. And I just thought, oh my God, that child, the amount of sugar, 54 grams of sugar just in the milk he had for lunch. This friend, I was like, that's setting him up for failure. So you have to be really vigilant, and you can't always be there as parents, right? But it's important to teach our kids, because even my youngest, like, she'll develop thrush in the back of her tongue just with 2 days of ice pops, juices, orange juice for breakfast. That's the other thing highly marketed back in 70s, 80s, 90s. Starting your day with vitamin C, orange juice. It's sugar. It's so yeah, a lot of work still needs to be done around awareness.
Absolutely, totally. And if someone wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
brainhealthcoach.com. I am happy to share and teach. I look forward to sharing my knowledge as much as I can. I have also a Facebook group, brainhealthcoach.com /checklist also provides some tips, day-to-day tips on how to really boost your brain.
Fantastic. And, I say it again, we underestimate just how important brain health and sleep are. And sugar it's just the worst food for brain health.
It is.
And yet we're told that the brain needs sugar to function. That's such an inaccurate thing to tell us.
Yeah. It is. It's behavior wise too. Erratic brain cell firing. I didn't mention this. That happens with sugar. The brain can't communicate properly, right? Just like it sounds, erratic brain cell firing, and that's associated with aggression, learning, memory issues, right? Like, doctors don't realize this. They're not educated in this. Doctors are often educated on one part of the body, right? I'm an eye doctor, I'm an orthopedic, I'm a gynecologist. They're not looking at the brain and how it affects everything.
Yeah. Yes. So I found. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Daneen. That was fascinating. Fascinating talking with you about the brain.
You're very welcome. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
What a fascinating chat with Daneen. And can you believe all the different ways that sugar can affect your brain health, and in a negative way, obviously. And we are told that the brain needs sugar to function. That's not true. The brain can definitely function without white sugar, without added sugar. And yes, it does need glucose to function, but even then, there are metabolic ways around that too. But sending out the message
especially to parents and kids, that sugar is an important or even essential part of a balanced and healthy diet, well, that's just not right. So I hope this episode has been enlightening for you and that you're enjoying this podcast. If you are enjoying this podcast, scroll down, leave a review, and let me know how it's helping you in your life after sugar. And don't forget to check out aftersugarclub.com to download your free simple guide to getting more energy with less sugar. And find out just how wonderful it feels to live happily free from sugar. Thanks for listening. That's it for this week. Keep in touch and see you soon for another episode.